Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. This video is a little impromptu. So as you can see by the title, it's about purpose. I was just studying the word, and I feel like I've been meaning to make this video for a minute. I just haven't, gotten around to it. Here we are. So regarding purpose. So as a therapist, I feel like I come across a lot of clients who are searching for their purpose or wanting to figure out, what their purpose is. And even outside of my practice as a therapist, I find that a lot of people are searching for purpose and just trying to find their footing in the earth and trying to find out, what they were created for, what they were purposed for. So I just wanted to make this video to encourage you guys and let you guys know that in my studying, I realized that we all have the same purpose. Everybody's purpose is the same. Everyone's purpose is the same. So I'm gonna give you some scripture to go along with it. So we know that Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, God made us in his image. So he said, let us make mankind in our image. So that's what God said, right? So with that being said, our purpose has to come from God because we were made in his image. We cannot have purpose apart from God. Okay? So our purpose cannot be apart from God since we were made in his image. So the next scripture is Isaiah 43 verse 7, and it says, everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made. So there's that second part. Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory. So we were created to glorify God. We were created to bring God glory. So first, we were created in his image to bring him glory. And even Jesus said it in the book of John, chapter 17, verse 4. He says, I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. I have brought you glory on earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. So even Jesus said that. So even Jesus acknowledged that I brought you, Papa, I brought you glory on this earth by finishing the work you gave me to do. So what is it? What work did God give you to do on this earth? That is your calling. The work that God gave you to do on this earth is your calling. So your purpose is to glorify God. Your calling, so purpose versus calling. Your calling is the work that he gave you to do on this earth to glorify him, to fulfill his purpose. What was the other scripture? And then also there's so many scriptures that talk about, us being called. Ephesians, I was just studying Ephesians, and even the first chapter of Ephesians is full of it. For example, Ephesians chapter 1 verse 11 says, in him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will. And And then, verse 18 says, I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you. So God has called us all. We are all called according to his purpose. And his purpose is what I was talking about before, to glorify him, for God to get the glory, for God to get the glory. That is purpose, to glorify God. So we know what purpose is. We know what our purpose is. Our purpose is to glorify God. Our calling is the way in which we will fulfill that purpose. So everybody's calling is going to look different. Everyone's purpose is the same. We were all created in his image to glorify him, but everyone's calling is going to be different. So my calling as a therapist may not be the same as Sally's calling. Sally's calling is not going to be the same as Tanika's calling. Tanika's calling is not going to be the same as Vanessa's calling. Vanessa's calling is not going to be the same as Kanisha's calling. And Kanisha's calling is not going to be the same as Kadisha's calling. All right? Yeah, y'all following me? I know my friends is following me because I just said all their names. So, everyone's calling is going to look different on this earth. Not everybody was called to do the same thing in the same way. Even me as a therapist, I had to get out of my own head about looking at other therapists. And I had to realize, okay, God created me and called me to be a therapist, but he didn't call me to be like every other therapist. He called me to use the gifts that he has already put in me. He has already given me unique gifts to fulfill the calling. Does that make sense? Okay, so everyone's calling is going to be different. Everybody's purpose is the same. Everyone's purpose is to glorify God. And everyone's calling will look different. So what is your calling? What is your calling? What are you called to do? Maybe that's something to pray about. God, what is it that I'm called to do? What did you call me to do on this earth, God? What did you call me to do on this earth? All right. So I know that my calling is to be a therapist because through my work, I glorify God because I'm using the gifts that he has given me. And it's so funny. Not funny, but the other day, one of my clients even told me, she's like, oh, like, I'm so grateful to God for me finding you, because the work that we have been doing, it's a game changer. And I know God is, she said that. I said, wow. She said, I know God is using you to help me. I know God is using you. And with that, I was like, wow, God, wow. I see that you called me to be a therapist and that I have influence. This is my sphere of influence. I have influence in this sphere. This is my sphere of influence. Being therapy, mental health, being a therapist. This is my thing. This is my thing. This is my calling. This is how I will bring God glory. So think about how you will bring God glory. Think about, what God called you to do. And one thing I want to highlight is being a therapist is not the only way that I will bring God glory. God can use us in more than one way. God is multifaceted. And he didn't create us to be, one-dimensional. So because we were made in his image, we are also made to be multifaceted. So thinking about, purpose versus calling. And so we know what our purpose is. And now we know the definition of calling and the difference between purpose versus calling. So I wrote down some questions so I wouldn't forget. Questions to explore your calling. So if you're watching this video and you're like, all right, well, I can understand now that this is my purpose, to glorify God, but not really sure how to go about figuring out my calling. First things first, go to God and ask God, because if you ask, you have not because you ask not. That's what the word says. So go to God and ask him, God, what is my calling? What did you call me to do? What did you call me to do? And he will surely tell you if you pay attention. So just some questions. What do I enjoy doing? What do I enjoy doing? What do I like? God puts desires in our hearts to fulfill the calling that he has on our lives. Okay? The next question to ask yourself is, does it benefit others? So, is this thing going to benefit me and me alone, or will it benefit others as well? So if it doesn't benefit others, it may just be a hobby. So if you enjoy it, but it doesn't benefit others, then, it may be a hobby. But if you don't enjoy it, but it does benefit others, it might be just a task. So think about those things as well. But if you do enjoy it and it does benefit others, maybe that's something worth looking into. That might be, a clue as to what your calling may be. The next question to ask yourself is, where is there a need around you? Where is there a need around you? Where are you feeling called to help? A good example is maybe like soup kitchen. Some people feel called or feel drawn to helping others through volunteer work, volunteering at soup kitchen or the shelter. So where do you feel called to? Where do you feel led to go to help? Where do you gravitate towards? Next question to ask yourself, has it already been confirmed? So with that, did God already tell you? And also sometimes other people can see our gifts before we can see them ourselves. So we may, already be operating in those things. And some people can be like, wow, you'd make a really good teacher. You'd make a really good teacher. And maybe you hear that often. That might be something worth going to God about and asking him, like, God, did you call me to be a teacher? Yeah, so, or some people may say, wow, you're going to be a pastor. Yeah, you're going to be a pastor. And maybe you hear that often as well. That's also something to go to God about, like, hey, God, can you confirm this for me? Did you call me to be a pastor? Did you call me to be a teacher? I get this a lot, and I just, I want to know. So be curious. Ask God questions. The next question, is it fruitful? So is this something that will produce the fruits of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Will it develop them in you? And will it, produce for others to grab off of your tree? And then the last question, does it glorify God? We already talked about that with purpose. Our purpose is to glorify God. So that's the main caveat of our calling. It has to glorify God. So does it glorify God? 1 Peter 4:10 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Yeah, so that's that. So yeah, guys, that's all I have. That's all I have. That's it. That's all I got. Purpose versus calling. And so just to sum it all up, our purpose is to glorify God. We are created in God's image to bring him glory, to glorify him by the work that we do on this earth. The work that we do on this earth is our calling. So everyone's calling is going to look different. Everybody's purpose is the same, to glorify God, but everyone's calling is going to look different. Okay? So that's all I got for y'all. That's all I want to say tonight. Happy, what's today? Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys have a good night. I surely am, because I am tired. But so yeah, I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you guys probably in a vlog that's about to come out. So see you when I see you.